of updates that they requested were more formalized bios for some of the instructors that have taught classes. And I've reached out to the people that have taught classes recently to kind of get some of those bios, and I've bundled them up and sent those over to her. Updated her with the most recent contact information for the current board and stuff like that. So I'm currently, hello webcam. I'm currently waiting for her to get back, but I expect tomorrow she's going to come back with either another set of questions for me, or finally it'll be the draft that they've prepared for us to approve and sign off on, and then we'll send it off. We're really very close. That it could go this week, it could go next week, that we're able to actually send it off and say officially that we are a 501c3 pending organization as opposed to just in process. So once it's like in the mail, it's no longer in our hands, it's in the IRS's hands, and there's like we're able to start more publicly fundraising to the effect that when it gets accepted, because we have actually officially submitted, when it gets accepted, if it gets accepted, that's what's kind of a little asterisk on any of the fundraising stuff, is that your donations will become charitable and they will become tax deductible, and that's kind of one of the basic things we need to get in place to kind of like push a lot of the larger projects, whether that's moving to a new space, improving the equipment that we have here, or just general fundraising. Along those lines, moving was the other thing that came up. We went over it and we looked at our numbers and stuff, and it's too uncertain of a guaranteed thing for us to try and push too aggressively to moving into a new space at this point. There's some things we can do in the short term that will lessen some of our congestion downstairs. I plan to talk to the landlord here. There are plenty of smaller spaces in this building that we could rent potentially for a short period of time, 6 months at least, so that we can move a couple of the bigger equipment, get more space to work on woodworking, without bumping into things that are in the way. And we think that'll last until we're able to, where we've got our fundraising, ducks in order, we've got our PR in place, we've got the tax documents to, allow us to push forward with a larger plan. We've improved our accounting infrastructure so that we can properly handle donations and provide the proper documentation to both the feds and to people who would donate, vast sums of money to us. Once we've got all that in place, we're more comfortable. We've set kind of a time frame, a goal of February, which is probably farther out than a lot of people kind of originally thought we would be looking at for actually moving. But the reason for that is everyone kind of agreed that November and December were just poor choices for trying to do anything, because everyone's got travel schedules. There's all, everyone's donating to other more important charities, than their local hackerspace. So the November-December timeframe was just not so great. January was really fresh off of that. February sounded like the right start time for actually moving. Now we'll have lots of work coming up to that date so that we're ready to move in February. We're not starting the process in February. We've already started the process. We're improving our infrastructure. We're doing better policies so that there will be no doubt that when we say we're ready to move, we're really ready to move. And it's not, we're ready to move, cross your fingers that we get the extra donations that we think people will, will chip in. Otherwise, it's we move and either we fail completely miserably, or it's an onerous burden on the 2 or 3 people who have the wherewithal to keep us afloat over the next couple of months until we actually get to that place where we have the right money coming in. And we don't want to put that on our on the 2 or 3 members that would step up, or however many people, even if it was $20 extra from everybody. That is that's just something that we don't want to be in the space where we have to ask for that money. We want to ask for that money and start donating it now if you've got it, because a little donated now every month up until February adds up into a nice pool of move-in cash in February. Because looking at the spaces that we looked at, it's not just like first rent deposit and stuff like that. Everywhere is going to need something done to it, whether it's extensive electrical reworking to handle our high-end devices, or additional walls, tearing down walls, all sorts of stuff. So it's nothing's going to be quite move-in. This place probably worked out really well because we didn't have anything when we moved in, and so everything we bought was kind of like we found a place for. We've got a bunch of stuff now that's going to need a place from the minute we move in, and a lot of that stuff, we just kind of want to know for certain that we've made the right decision. So we're saying February for the move date. There's going to be lots of work before, then and now. you've seen, all the new flyers. We've got a formal open house next 20th. Oh no, sorry, the 18th. That are all going to be the first start on the path. We're going to also work on a kind of a larger fundraising push in October to kind of coincide with East Bay Mini Maker Fair. So we'll have a good presence there. We'll have lots of flyers on trying to like parallel us together so people can see us both together. It's like, well, East Bay Mini Maker Fair, that's just a mile away from the local hackerspace. Tie those two together. Let's keep that in people's minds. That's where we are with that stuff. We went over some other things in policy notes. We've got that in the minutes if you want to read it. If you have any questions about that stuff, feel free to corner any of the board members or myself, and we'll take care of it. One of the other things we kind of talked about there was changing the meeting format. You notice we didn't start with a round of introductions, putting everyone on the spot, pointing out the new people, going, "Who are you?" And everyone having to hear again and again who everyone is, because the regulars have kind of started to recognize faces. We're focusing on having a welcome chairman or a host at near the front door, someone we can point to direct people to as well. This is a change for us as well to kind of make us more welcoming on the Thursday night meetings that have traditionally been a little more business oriented. So we're not doing the whole. I did not use a gavel. I would like to point that out. There was no gavel involved in this meeting, and we would like to carry that on forward. There is a formal quarterly members meeting. Traditionally, we've done the voting of new members, but that's also the formal minutes recorded, gone into the ledger kind of thing, where additional things should be brought up. There are also allowances if anyone ever has something that they need formally brought up, where they can address the board directly. So those, there are ways to still have that formal aspects of the meeting. This isn't it. We can figure out those when we need them. Okay. In making it more fun, the other thing we decided to do is a show and tell. I mean, we're a hackerspace. Everyone's working on awesome, cool projects. Let's see some of them, right? And so they're just kind of like hearing about them or walking downstairs and saying, well, someone's got something really awesome glued up here waiting to try. Like there's something down there. I don't know whose that is. Looks really cool. Maybe they'll show and tell us in another week. So to that end, I decided I'd go ahead and get things started since we're pulling the changes on everyone. And I brought in what was my creeper bot. And I was going to go ahead and get this started. So we want to limit things to 10 minutes. We don't want to drag these things out anymore, but I want to give you like the points on that. Hopefully most of you saw it in its full glory when it was sitting over here in the corner, or if not, there's pictures up on our website. The idea is that there's this computer game called Minecraft that a lot of people have played and are familiar with, and my kids were nuts with, and I really enjoyed it myself. And last year there was a convention in Las Vegas where all the fans of this game came to see the final release of, like, from beta to production. Here's our awesome game, right? And I took my kids to it because it was close enough. It was just kind of really cool, and I thought to amp up the excitement, I'd build one of the characters from the game in a nice 5-foot-tall format to drive around and just be pretty neat with. So if you haven't seen, I just have a picture of it around here somewhere, but anyway, if you haven't seen it, it's about 5 feet tall, big green head, it's got a body. We have it in miniature over here. There you go. There it is in miniature.
There you go.
In the game, it sneaks up behind you, hisses and explodes, and blows you and all your stuff into pieces. It's in this really cool checker pattern and stuff. Unfortunately, since I decided I was going to be showing and telling on Tuesday, I haven't put it back together for show and tell, but the exciting hackery parts are in this box. I had actually been a lurker at ACE for several months prior to me starting this project, and starting this project was kind of what really kicked me into becoming a full-on member of ACE and taking advantage of the stuff here and like finding out what hackerspaces really were. I'd come to a few meetings. I had originally met Dave at a tech shop class, is how I found out about the place, like a year and a half ago or whatever that was. So this was like my first, I'm going to do it in the hackerspace. We had just gotten the laser cutter, so it was like, ooh, an excuse to use the laser cutter. Because that's kind of also how I viewed this project, and I think it's probably how a lot of us view the projects we take, is we don't do projects that we know how to do, we do projects that we know we can learn how to do. So there were a lot of things that were firsts for me in this. It was the first time really using a CAD program to create the files. It was the first time cutting things out on a laser. I'd done like a little circle, I'd etched my name before and stuff like that, but I hadn't actually built something. So there were a lot of things that kind of came together to make this final project. Obviously, everything's laser cut, like cool gears and rods, and I had a whole rack and pinion thing going on. It was also the first time that I had used the laser toner transfer method for making a PC board. And I just like sourcing it from start to finish. It was kind of neat. I was like, it was my excuse to do a lot of things too. I bought, a nice receiver transceiver kit from like Hobby King for super cheap. I'm like shocked how cheap you can buy these things from Hobby King direct from China. It's like, I remember last time I had looked like 5-6 years before, it was like it was $200-$300 to get a nice receiver set. Now it's like $30. So it's like all these things kind of came together. So let me just give you a couple of overviews of some of the key parts in this. I didn't want to spend a lot of money, so you hack things together. You either find parts in the basement, which some of this is, or you find creative reuses. This is driven by 2 cordless drills I bought from Harbor Freight at $20 each, and it was an awesome deal. So for $20, I got a cordless drill that's motor, a battery, and a charger for $20. So I got 2 of those, stripped it to pieces. And it also came out with a battery-powered, super flashlight and stuff to use this, stuff. I thought $20, much better deal than actually sourcing and buying a real motor that I could, use out of a catalog. It's like, let's find something cheap and commercial that I can, cut into pieces and put together. So they're brushed motors, meaning that it's 2 wires, power, polarity on one side makes it spin this way, polarity on the other side makes it spin the other way. You can kind of adjust the speed of it by adjusting the voltage, but not really because it's got this whole lock-up period. So I knew that a lot of the commercial motor control things aren't using brushed motors anymore. They're all using brushless motors like you find over on the quadcopter. And that's where it's got 3 leads to it and it's pulsing magnets in a certain order to get it to spin. So right off the bat, all the cheap solutions from Hobby King were out the window because they only used the brushless motors. And if I was going to buy an equivalent brushless motor, it was mucho dinero that I did not want to spend this. I'm much more happy tearing apart a $20 thing from the hardware store. So I went out and I found online someone else's plans for a really cool motor controller. I read enough to learn that the best way to control one of these is with something called an H-bridge, which is basically a set of transistors or MOSFETs that directs the current in one direction or the other direction. It can be switched, so that way you can decide to reverse. You can turn, change the way that the motor is spinning. So I found this awesome one. This is the first, I printed it up on the laser printer. I ironed it onto my board. I etched it with some stuff I got, from Radio Shack, and it was like awesome. And I bought a bunch of parts off of, Jamco, and like put them all together. And I was like, this is awesome. So this design was originally spec'd for someone who had built a remote control lawnmower. Right, so they had like a regular gas lawnmower with a wheelchair and motors on it, and then this was the H-bridge that they had done. They'd done like this crazy thing where you could actually wire 3 transistors in parallel like this, so that you'd spread the load across them. And in each way, I've got like 4 distinct elements per motor. So I was going to end up doing like a tank steering thing. Like move it this way, it'll turn. Move it that way, it'll turn. Each motor going in a different direction. And that was really cool. It was awesome. I plugged it in. I got it to drive around the kitchen. It was great. So that was awesome. I was very excited. There were a couple of areas where I decided I needed to kind of add a little more solder and wire to kind of beef up the traces. And had that all working fine. It's communicating with an Arduino that is in turn communicating with a receiver from that Hobby King transmitter pair I had got. So that was cool figuring out the software on the Arduino to figure out what kind of signal is this receiver getting from the transmitter. It comes, how does it talk to a servo? So it does that with a pulse width modulated signal that the Arduino could read and tell me like a number between 200 and 1200 as to where it was reading whenever I moved the little thing on the controller up and down. So then I had to map that into something that I could send out to this motor controller to pulse it on and off to try and get the motor to go to a particular speed. All said, it worked out pretty cool. It was cool learning some of the extra Arduino stuff I hadn't really done before. Everything came together really well with cheap things that I found in like hardware bins over at Urban Ore or whatever. And I was here late, really, I worked probably like, an entire weekend, 3 16-hour days, because I had to get it in the car so we could drive to Vegas, right? and it's like the middle of the night, like the 2 nights before, and I'm testing it out in the hallway out here, and the magic smoke comes out of the board. And it's like, no! Right? And I'm like tearing my hair out, and I'm looking at it, it's like some of the traces lifted up and kind of like evaporated into the air. So I'm like, there was metal there. There's not metal there anymore. What happened? And so clearly, whatever combination of trace thicknesses and the amount of, amps I was trying to put through it was too much for this board, and it just blew. So I'm like, crap, I've got to get this in the car. I can't have wasted all this time. I've, told my kids it's going to be awesome. It's definitely going to be awesome. So I'm like looking up online, where can I spend the most money to get something FedEx to me the next day to solve this problem? Like, there are all these combat robot sites that sell these things for like $300. They're super hardcore. I'm like, all right, that's a lot of money. And I'm like totally freaking out. And I'm downstairs. It's like probably 10 o'clock at night. And two other members come in to the space. Mark, who you guys have seen, he does the Staley Logic Analyzer, and Ono, a tall German guy who I guess is at Berkeley or something like that. I don't know, but he's another member that comes in here. And they're like, what's going on? Let's see what you're doing. And I'll like say, and he's like, oh yeah, that's bad. That's pretty bad. And I was like, well, what's it need to do? I was like, well, it just needs to go forward and do the thing. He's like, yeah, we can do this. And he's like, what? Huh? We can do this? What do you mean we can do this? I don't, have the, FedEx thing shipped to me or anything like that. No. He's like, he comes upstairs, he grabs his bag, and he's like fiddling through it. He's got just like a regular backpack, and he pulls out this huge Ziploc bag full of like transistors of every shape and flavor, and I'm like, whoa, what the heck? And he like pulls out like this, this like MOSFET or something like that. It's like probably like a good inch in size. It's like, this one thing could do everything that these like six, that these six on this board are doing. They're like, really? Yeah, it was $1.50. And it's like, okay. So still, it's like, I'm like, all right, let's figure this out. But I'm still kind of like real frazzled. He's like plops down on the ground and he pulls out a piece of paper and he's like, drawing the full circuit, doing the math in his head, figuring out how big the resistors need to be and stuff like that. I don't even know the formula to figure out how big that resistor needs to be, and you just did it. Right? And so, in the end, he comes up with something that's far more elegant than the piece that I had put together. A quarter of the components that I've got it mounted in here that you guys can all, you're all welcome to come over here. You're all welcome to come take a look at to see, like, oh, that is now, replaced this huge thing? Yeah, all right. That's what I get for surfing around on the internet trying to learn, on my own. It had a couple of drawbacks from the original design. It wasn't a full H-bridge. So it could pulse pulse the motor going forward, and I could speed it up and go down, but it didn't have a reverse. So I hacked together a reverse, using a $12 relay. I got them up at Al Lesher's the next morning, along with whatever parts I needed. I found a voltage changer so that I could flip through relays and stuff like that. So I did at least have reverse on one wheel, right? So it could go back, which is fine because it just kind of spins in place, and then go off and forward again. It was awesome. I was like trucking down the convention hall, and like everyone's going, whoa! And I put like a speaker with a little MP3 player on the inside, and it was like playing like some of the parody songs that go along with the game, as well as the sound effects, and it was really pretty cool. It worked great. I ran into one problem, so it probably ran for about an hour before I had issues with it. Specifically, the way that I was mapping the pulses to it so that you would control the motor speed. First off, full bore, far too scary of a device. This thing was like tearing down. I could totally see it getting out of my way, mowing over some kids waiting in line for an autograph or something like that. And I'm like, no, that was not what I want. So in the software, I totally leashed it down. I put a governor in there. It's like, don't go beyond this point. And that part worked. But what happened is, as the battery started to drain, I needed more juice, I needed to let it go past that point to give it enough to kind of get past the initial stick of the motor to, get it going. So really I needed kind of like a little adjustable dial where I could, like, as the battery was draining, turn that up so it had a larger window to travel in. I didn't realize that's what was going on in the middle of the convention floor when it started dying on me. But it was like, all right, I've turned it off good enough. This is actually kind of a hassle. It's huge, and I've got to pay attention to it. But I figured that part out later on, and I'm gonna have to do something with this. It's an awesome little base. I'll turn it into some other kind of neat looking robot thing. Maybe have it serve drinks at a party or something. But It was an awesome experience that not only let me use a lot of tools that I wasn't familiar with, that I hadn't seen before. Let me dream big and like work on a project to completion, where I could say I actually started this and finished it, which is unfortunately the way that most of my projects do not go. They get started and forgotten. Maybe you can, agree with that. But it also locked me into loving a hackerspace. If I had done this in my basement, which I've got enough tools, I could have made something fine. I don't have a laser cutter, but I got a jigsaw. I'd have made a frame. I've got all the electronics I needed. I didn't need, any of the fancy tools here. They were nice to have. Using the laser cutter was sweet with making this instead of like trying to make a straight line, in tight spaces or working with weird brackets to tie it all in. But, if I had been in my basement 10 o'clock on a Saturday, 2 days before I'm supposed to pack into the car, and the blue smoke come out, it'd have been a bad scene. I'd have been hugely sad-faced, and, I might have spent that $400 to get something next day to me, and then, stayed up until like 10 minutes before I was putting in the car, getting that to work. But it wouldn't have been the same experience, and it, sold me on hackerspaces from this point on. And that's my CreeperBot. I'd be happy to talk to you guys afterwards if you got any specific questions about how it all kind of flows together. It's definitely neat to kind of look down here and see like these big drill motors in here because it's still got the clutch on it. Because I'm not going to leave that on there. Anyway, so that's show and tell. This is what we want to do every week from this point on, which means I don't have enough things to talk about. So I'm going to need you guys to step up and tell us about a project that's really cool to you guys, all right? It doesn't have to be finished. It can be in progress. It can be anything, just as long as it's something that you think people might be interested in, right? It can also be a plea for help. It can be, I've gotten this far, and I can't get farther. So I'll put out an email starting next week looking for show and tell for next week. Actually, next week's the July 5th. I don't know, is anyone going to come to a July 5th meeting? I mean, it's middle of the week, so it's not like it's a weekend holiday, but someone will be here, but it may be a smaller, reduced meeting, just because I think people might be traveling. Anyway, I'll send out that email for show and tell for next week. Be thinking if you've got a project you wouldn't mind talking about. Awesome. Moving on. We're trying to keep the agenda of the meetings locked in via email, so I solicited additional items. One of the things that was brought up was a field trip to this auction that's taking place tomorrow. You might have seen the link on the message list, or maybe it was only an IRC, but it's a robotics and automation company in, I think, Pleasanton or something that's moving, and so they're selling awesome-looking things. Dave was the most interested in it, and of course he's not in this room, so I'll bring it back up when he gets here. Moving on. Upcoming events and classes. We've got sewing classes Sunday and Monday. Class on Sunday and just workshopping on Monday, I'm guessing.
The workshop is a regular every other Monday thing.
Yep.
Alternating Mondays. So the class itself is a short one, and it's basic sewing. There's the regular like how this thing works thing, and then there's a whole bunch of practical exercises that'll get you used to a couple of different kinds of sewing.
And who doesn't have curtains? They don't need hemming. So learn how to do it. Also coming up is the open house, July 18th. I see large stacks of flyers and paraphernalia over there that I'm imagining you all have been inducted into the delivery process for.
Not yet. In fact, you can do that right now.
Okay.
We do have a distribution plan. It's split up, so it's pretty easy to do. And so we're looking for like somebody to take a half an hour and go have coffee in a particular area and flyer the area. The basic areas we're trying to get to are the regular popular ones. Down by Actual Cafe and all the stuff that is in our neighborhood, on San Pab, the stuff around the university. So it's not like we're sending you to egregious places to flyer. And they're all packaged up. And so whatever doesn't get picked up tonight to go out, we'll ping the list and see who else can do the deal.
Yep, excellent. So make sure you meet up over here, grab a stack, sign off on an area you're saying that you're going to take care of, and we'll get all those areas covered. We'll get this open house bumping with people and get some new members out of it. 2 days later, we've got a movie night at Chabot as part of their evening movie series. It is The Fifth Element. everyone's favorite sci-fi, Lilu, Multipass. Yeah. So we're guaranteed to be there. I don't know that we've confirmed very many people for actually being there and helping. I know a couple of people have definitely stepped up, but it would be nice to affirm as many people as can come. One of the main things we wanted to do was get the shooting gallery set back up. There was some talk about alternate artwork for it, but I don't know how that's been progressing. We'll find out a little bit more about that, but we do need at least, I'm thinking probably some more people to show up for it. Hey, it's a movie, it's free entrance, it's fun, you get to hang out, there's probably drinks.
Karen's updating via the message board right now.
He says, I got a bunch of artwork for the shooting gallery.
Awesome.
Me.
Me. Well, I think Aaron is expecting to be there, and this is Sacramento Slick Aaron, so he's harder to get down here every now and then, but multi-pass, that's all I can say. Other than that, we've got a call to action for a few other things. That's the open house. Be here for the open house if you haven't already decided to be here. There's going to be gaming, there's going to be meeting and greeting and shaking hands and impressing people with our hackerspace awesomeness. There's the movie night. Dave's got a call out for people that can assist with some sysad, web development, scripting help. This is basically automating some of the publicity that we want to do. We don't have to log into 5 different services to say that we're doing something. That would be really cool. Anything else said on that?
Yeah, there's just a couple of things like that. So if you do any web, software development, that kind of stuff, it's not too complicated. It's just, I have my hands full of a lot of stuff, and hopefully someone else can help out.
All right. And the other awesome...
I got the UPS port at home.
UPS, oh, okay, cool.
So we're bringing...
I'll catch up with you after my mom leaves town next week.
Other new awesomeness that's a call to action is, hey, what's all this Red Bull stuff? You guys want to talk about that?
Sure.
So Red Bull is doing the Red Bull Creation Challenge. I guess it's the second year, and people to enter get this Bolduino. The Bolduino.
It's awesome.
And so I guess the competition goes in rounds. The deadline is July 3rd. I think they favor kind of flashy stuff over really technically awesome.
It's like next Tuesday or something, right?
Yeah, so
we
it's
got
like
the
next
weekend,
Tuesday.
basically.
And by the way, I'm leaving tomorrow and I'll be gone till Sunday.
I got you back.
Thank you.
Don't worry.
Hence the call for help.
Yeah. So
Drew has this awesome.
yeah. So we're making a line following robot, which if you don't know what that is, it's essentially yeah. So something that has at least 2 wheels and some optical sensors that will look at a line that's a different color than the rest of the ground. Like usually it's white on black or black on white, and it will adjust its course in order to make sure that it follows the path of the line. So we're gonna make one of those out of this guy, and
Check this to say Red Bull on it.
yeah.
What a coincidence.
Yeah.
Did they give you that too?
No. This is so. As a side note, I'm a huge Formula One fan. Red Bull is my favorite team, and they've been the world champion for the past 2 years running. So it's something that's very near and dear to me. But anyway, I think it'd be really cool to make a line following robot out of this thing, and mock up sort of a Formula One circuit with obviously the white line in the middle of it. And I think it'd be really cool to have grandstands and other stuff. We'll see how much time we have and how who wants to volunteer for
The
it.
next 5 days.
Yeah, exactly. So
How about
Sharks in the Bay?
sharks in the
we
bay.
have to have some Sharks in the Bay themed art already.
Vintage carnival duckies.
Yeah.
I think that might work.
It's got a gothic bent to it.
We'll
So
see.
What kind of things are we talking about here? You people
So-
excited about helping.
Yeah, so I sent some stuff to the list about some ideas that I had, but if
But what are the like prizes? They have prizes for this competition?
I don't know.
this is
I'll
really
let
just
you know
a
in 1 minute.
qualifying round, it sounds
Okay.
like, for the real
The
competition.
real competition, though.
The real competition's got like 10 grand.
Oh,
They send you somewhere and it's a 72-hour hackathon or something, and you do
Lifetime
something else.
supply of Red Bull.
Oh God.
Non-diet.
So, Red Bull Challenge, it sounds really cool. It'd be great press if we could move forward with it, not to mention it's a pretty cool project. So, if you got the time and the game, step up.
Yeah, so I'm probably going to be here all night, or at least pretty late tonight, working on this thing, at least getting the actuation of the wheels from the Arduino working. So
So that's a lot of the way that the shooting gallery worked too, was
We had a deadline and a competition to.
the original idea just kind of got put out there, and then it got kind of bastardized over time into a different project, and all turned out pretty well, I think.
Oh, I have something to add on the shooting gallery once.
See?
We need some online documentation for it. 'Cause it's gonna go live pretty soon, like in the next week or two.
Yeah.
They're asking me like, oh yeah, you guys, you're gonna publish a bunch of open source stuff, right?
Yeah.
Send me the link.
Yeah.
So with that,
So you-
here's what I got for you guys.
Let's
Okay. All right.
So I don't have anything else. I mean, you know, if anybody wants to work on it, get a hold of me or Sky or Dave. I think Dave is also. I thought
There
you
you are
were
now.
to work on it.
I gotta work on the shooting
Oh,
gallery.
okay.
What areas can you help with? Like what skills would help you get this pulled together?
So I've never built a line tracker before, so putting that together, I guess, you know, is going to be probably a bunch of voltage dividers with, you know, photoresistors and regular resistors, and we'll hook those up to the analog pins and just troubleshooting, getting that working. What I think the coolest technical part of this project is going to be is optimizing the kind of speed. So like, you know, making sure it goes fast on straights and slows down for corners and stuff like that. So that's probably the part that is going to be the most fun for technically minded people to work on. Others, you know, there's other stuff too. So whatever you want to do that fits around it is of course welcome.
So what kind of support do you need in actually demonstrating it and setting it up to
Oh,
be
that's
flashy and-
a really good question. You have to make a 2-minute video, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody has any skills or prowess doing video editing, making stuff look more dramatic than it actually is, because, you know, this is going to be like a remote control car going around a track probably relatively slowly, and you know, we want to make it
The
look.
line following a robot.
Remote control.
Well,
You want to be behind the scenes like, oh, look, it's following the line. Really?
Well, no, I think that should be the
Live
easy part.
move.
But yeah, so we're doing a video too. So if anybody wants to help make video, do a little
Lens flares and stuff.
Yeah.
lens flares and, you know,
Pyrotechnics.
text that flies onto the screen and all that stuff.
Flaming wheels.
That would be awesome.
Exploding buildings.
Yeah.
What if you shot it on a green screen and superimposed it into an actual track?
That is an awesome idea. That is a really good idea.
There you go.
That's a great idea.
Easier than building a bunch of models on
That's
short notice.
Oh,
absolutely
no
true.
models, we'll raise your kids' toys.
My kids' toys? My kids don't get cool toys. Like, I get all the cool toys.
You can't tell me they don't have action figures that we can.
They got action figures. So like Boba Fett driving the Red
There
Bull
you
car.
go. Right.
Worst case, we just glue this on as a spoiler and green screen the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just
We'll fix it in post.
There's no battery in there.
Right.
All right.
I don't know this year's prizes, but last year's prize was $5,000, and every team member got their own laser cutter.
Nice.
Every team member.
We could
What
use
is it?
a working laser cutter.
How many people can be on the team?
Yeah. All right. So jumping back a bit before we move on, I'd mentioned the field trip out to that auction. Is that something that you're going to do, or just we're wanting to make sure people knew it was available?
If people want to do that, organize for that.
I don't know. I haven't heard anyone saying that they've got time off tomorrow, but the link is on the page. It's been through the list as well. As I mentioned, it's automation manufacturer.
Like professional like robot builders.
And-
Selling stuff at like 1% of the cost.
Yeah.
Wow.
What time are people going?
I don't know. We haven't organized.
Yeah, there's
quite
a
early,
link.
right?
It
I
opens.
mean,
It's
It
an
starts at
auction
11:30 or something?
So-
Oh, it's an auction?
No.
Yeah, 8.
It sounded like they're just selling. It's not an auction. It sounded like they're just.
Oh, they're just
It sounded
selling.
like a
Oh,
garage
okay.
sale. Fire.
But yeah,
I think some things are optional, but there's a lot of stuff that's got fixed prices. The Craigslist has been updated to show a bunch of different lots, and they've got blue stickers with prices on various things. So there's a linear motor, you know, a linear platform, motion platform there.
forget that. There's an industrial robot farm.
Yeah.
That's what we really like. Industrial robot arms.
You should mount it on the creeper bot.
Yeah! I could use it to toss the creeper bot around, you know. So yeah, anyway. So it sounded pretty cool, and I'm glad that was brought to our attention because it'd be awesome. All right, so as I said at the beginning, we wanted to make sure that any items brought up in the meeting were things that people had posted to the list to keep on the agenda. But at the very end of the meeting, which is now, we wanted to have a little bit of time for the last minute additions that didn't make it. We've got we want to try and keep a hard cap on total discussion of like 10 minutes for any last minute and stuff, and stuff. If it was important, make sure you get it into the agenda earlier on, and you can have the floor for a larger period. But are there any last minute agenda item additions?
Chris, looks like pizza's here, so if folks want pizza open for anyone, we would welcome donations so that we've got enough of a kitty to keep buying pizza for the weekend. But
Yeah.
pizza, and then I guess if anyone wants Coke Zero, there's some other drinks in the fridge as well.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah, if we get enough donations to cover the pizza, then it'll be a pizza next week.
it'll be a self-fulfilling thing.
If
Yeah.
not, then it could be a couple of weeks before we get another pizza.
Right. Anyone got anything else? I mean, I know we got a lot of discussion on the mailing list about some of the projects that are working for fixing stuff, and there's like good progress in both
This
areas.
guy's going now.
Did I get like full on working?
Really?
Sweet. Check.
Very cool.
Of course, is that working based on a breadless board?
We'll make that show and tell in a week or two,
Alright.
2 weeks.
Yeah. Get all the connections harder put together. The laser tube's been replaced.
Yeah,
This hasn't
we-
been test fired yet.
Yeah, so we replaced the laser tube, and we're pretty sure that the cooling pump is working correctly. We seem to have gotten all the bubbles out of the system, but it'd be really nice if anybody knew anybody who's a laser expert.
We don't
They
work
can-
that way here.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the alternative is we turn the damn thing on and maybe
For that.
maybe
I
it'll blow
go
up.
for that.
Oh, I got the
Okay.
current meter too. It's thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You want to hook that up first?
Current meter. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Sweet, because that's still best guess on why it failed last time was that the current that it had been running too hot for too long, or is it just that the insulation was crap?
Could be either one. So Jorg found a video of how to tune the cooler.
Uh-huh.
So how to program the cooler. So we might want to revisit how the cooler is programmed. So and possibly hook up the alarm wire to a shut off, maybe.
Yeah. All sorts of cool things.
Treasures.
But
Say that again.
Oh, Jorg found a video on how the cooler is programmed, and it has an external alarm. So we might want to hook that up to something that trips that turns the laser off.
So the laser cutter itself also has a temperature sensor. Yep. I think that turns off if it goes too high. It may just beep.
What's this beeping? How do you make it stop silent so
Yeah.
good?
Oh, it's cutting, just keep going.
Yeah, it's still
for
cutting.
sure that
All right,
I know for sure that the cooler has an alarm that beeps.
cool. All right, so I mean
That's a
that's
good point, though. If it shuts off, does it tell you why?
yeah.
I mean, it depends on which thing is beeping. It will be beeping if it shuts it off.
So, yeah. but the powder printer beeps too, but you don't know what the hell it means.
Yeah.
Well, if it's the cooler that's
Yeah.
beeping, it's probably the cooler that
Yeah. Well, I mean, the additional safety measures have yet to be spec'd out, but I mean, hopefully we'll have them obvious. This
Yeah.
light blinks, it has label, but we'll get there. If we get those implemented. I mean, as it is, it ran really well for a long time, and the kind of failure that happened really kind of looks like it was bad insulation. I mean, it could be that it overheated and the insulation failed because of that, but
So yeah, the other thing is we don't know what happened first. The tube cracked first, and then it arced, or it arced and then the tube cracked.
right.
That's the thing.
So, bad smoke.
Is it possible to be driven?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the manual says it's only supposed to be driven at 20 milliamps. So, I mean,
that's where we get the current meter.
Yeah,
The
so-
power supply's not higher than it was.
And that's another place where we could stick an alarm or, a shut off or something
Yeah.
like that. So, pretty good stuff.
So we done?
Let's talk about the powder just real quick.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had awesome notes going through, and it sounds like you talked to a bunch of people. So
Yeah.
it's either doomed or it's gonna someday work.
Right. And, so to me, we're right at the cusp of, well, is it go or do we send it back?
Yeah.
So,
There
like
is
I
no
said,
back.
well,
I don't think sending it back is an option. I think we accepted full responsibility.
Yeah, but
All right, well,
yeah, go or no go.
maybe we get some money back, because the thing clearly didn't work, and probably hasn't worked since 2008.
I'm shocked Val's impulse purchase turned out this way, but
Me too, deeply. So, like I said, I'm willing to give it a shot with the distilled water and the guy on the phone. He's willing to do that. He's one of those, salt of the earth Massachusetts guys. I love those guys. Those guys are just awesome. There's no pretense, there's no ego. It's just, here, let's do this. And he'll probably give me more information than he's supposed to, just because he's a good guy, and I'm pretty good at sweet-talking people like that. So that's the plan. I'm going to look at it tonight. If anybody else wants to come down and give me some electromechanical knowledge, that would be awesome, because I don't know diddly about that stuff. There's one line there that has crystals in it. Dave at Z-Corp, oh no, that's a whole other problem. But I said, well, we'll just try to flush it out and see what happens. So it sounds like what we can do is just plug in the distilled water jug and crank it up, and he's going to walk you through whatever it's going to do. He was surprised that it didn't go online, as of course I was. I wasn't surprised that it didn't after I received that board, but it finally dawned on me after doing a little more research that, well, this guy has 1,000,001 sensors in it. And so, tell me, all those yellow and red LEDs, are they always going to be that color? How do we know? Or are they going to change to green if it's happy? Is that likely to be the case? Are they going to turn to green if it's happy? Some of them are green. There's like 8 or 9 of them that are yellow or red. Are those alarm conditions?
there has to be some kind of service manual for it. I mean, it might not be something available to the public, but it has to exist. So they made
We
enough
have
of them that
a
they had to be
manual.
serviced. So,
We have a manual, but apparently they didn't go crazy with the documentation.
uh,
This particular machine is the orphan of the line. It's an interim machine, which is why the way it looks the way it does, because they didn't make any special tooling for it. The 310, which is older, has all custom panels in the front and all this stuff. This one was just break form it out of sheet metal and put a lid on. So this guy Dave is basically the only one there that knows anything about it anymore. So
Did you hear that better printers are cheaper than what we paid for this one?
that's what he's trying to tell me. So after I got off the phone, I got on eBay and looked up that 310 and they wanted $8,000 for it.
I think what he might have meant was better printers new or cheaper than this one was new.
I don't think so. He said, he asked me how much we paid for it. Oh, you can get a better one than that.
right.
I don't know. Maybe. So, to me, the silver lining, the potential silver lining anyway, is that we didn't pay much for it. We can afford to, go rogue with all these wild materials, and we haven't lost much if we screw it up.
Yeah.
Once we get it working.
Yeah, I mean, if we can,
If it went.
trace all of the random little sensors in there and just kind of
Flip them.
clip them. I mean, because basically it's like,
Try to-
all right,
try to
we've already
figure it
kind
out.
of voided the warranty long ago. We don't need to know that the bed isn't level. We'll work on that later,
You're scaring me.
Most of them are out of alignment just from having been driven up in the back of a pickup truck.
Oh,
so.
speaking of alignment, back to the laser, somebody needs to align it.
Mhm.
I don't know how to do that. I mean, you
Dave's
probably
fine.
guess. Dave, you can do it?
Mostly it's holding a piece of paper in front of it and seeing where the dot goes.
Okay.
So, right, just pressing the little laser
I like
test
to use a
button.
piece of tape instead of my finger. but that works too.
Whatever. All right. That is the close of the meeting as far as that goes. I'd be happy to give a tour to anyone who is unfamiliar with the place, or yeah, if you want to come by and take a look at the inside of the Creeper Bot, I'd be happy to talk about that too. And mingle, pizza.
So I have these small. I have these big ones.
Uh-huh.
I have 8. What would you
How
like
you
to
doing,
do?
Chris?
So in those envelopes, I want
How you doing?
3 envelopes.
I